Hi everyone, thanks for joining us. Our project is called The Timeline of the Civil Rights Movement in Birmingham in Relation to Local Restaurants. My name is Esther Fries, and I'm joined by my co-presenters, Gaia Mehu, Sarah Hammock, Hannah Adaroja, and Izzy Garas. For this project, we wanted to explore how restaurant culture in Birmingham, specifically Black and Greek-owned restaurants, intersected with the Civil Rights Movement, especially during the years 1954 to 1970. We chose this topic because food and gathering spaces have always played a big role in shaping community life. In Birmingham, that was especially true during the Civil Rights era. Restaurants weren't just places to eat, they were safe spaces, organizing hubs, and a way for people to build strength and connection during a time of intense social and political change. Both Black and Greek communities in Birmingham faced discrimination, and we were interested to see how their shared struggles led to overlapping experiences and support systems, especially within the local food scene. In our research, we looked at when and where these restaurants were established and tried to connect those details to major events in the civil rights movement. Through that, we hope to highlight how food culture reflected deeper patterns of resilience, solidarity, and identity during that time.
To gather our information, compare, and come to a conclusion, we utilized the timeline method. Before creating the timeline, we researched and gathered important dates from the civil rights and also dates of restaurant come-ups, specifically engaging our focus at the path from Birmingham, Alabama to Montgomery, Alabama. As you can see in the timeline below, some of these dates included the establishment of Chris's Hot Dogs and also the court case Katzenbach versus McClung, 1964. To find these dates, we used tools like the UAB library, archives, and journals. We then placed everything in chronological order to understand further the relationships between African Americans and Greeks, reasoning for cohesion, as well as their restaurant pop-up frequencies in relation to the civil rights movement. Furthermore, we extrapolated the understanding and information from the similarities we started to see, which then allowed us to attain a conclusion in our results.
As for our results, our research into the timeline of the civil rights movement in Birmingham revealed a powerful convergence between multiple cultures during a time of struggle and inequality. Due to the Blacks and the Greeks only having each other, they teamed up against segregation, allowing their restaurants to be a safe place for non-white people. With that being said, these restaurants became symbolic backgrounds for justice and equality.
We also found that many restaurants enforced segregation policies even in the 1960s. These restaurants were seen as targets for civil rights activists. Civil rights activists, like members of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, would have their sit-ins and boycotts in restaurants with segregation policies. They did this because they wanted to challenge racial discrimination and raise awareness to the unfair treatment non-whites were facing during this time. The timeline results later show a few violent retaliations, one including the church bombing on 16th Street. After the 4 innocent children were killed, both parties decided that the violence was excessive, and President Johnson then signs the Civil Rights Act of 1964, legally dismantling segregation.
The project's information concludes that restaurants had a very important and impactful role in the civil rights movement. Many restaurants were stages of nonviolent protests like sit-ins. During such a monumental time in the United States, owners in the restaurant scene were front and center to historical events. Their decisions of whether people of color would be welcome in their shops held an extremely heavy weight. Those who allowed people of color to stay in their shops acted as safe havens for Black Americans at a very dangerous time. Other people of color who owned restaurants, like the Greeks, had the heavy decision of supporting those who were discriminated against, similar to their own discrimination, or to try and save themselves from the same or worse discrimination. To conclude, restaurants played a very major role in the civil rights movement, and the owners' decisions shaped the experiences of the discriminated against and what side of history they were on.